Bonjour, hello. So today I am going to show you how to make a chocolate cake. So it's a chocolate cake that has a dark stout beer in it. Originally the cake was Guinness, and the beer in the cake was Guinness. And this time I'm going to use a local beer that we have here, which is La Colombe, that I love, and that I use their dark Noir black beer to make this cake. So the first thing that we're going to do for this cake is we're going to heat up the beer with the butter. We're going to make butter beer. Donc la première chose qu'on va faire pour ce gâteau qui est un gâteau au chocolat avec de la bière noire. Donc moi j'utilise donc une bière locale qui s'appelle la Colombe. J'aime beaucoup cette bière, donc voilà. Et sinon on peut utiliser une autre bière stout noire. Donc la première chose qu'on va faire, c'est qu'on va chauffer la bière avec le beurre. Donc voilà. Donc il faut donc 250 ml de bière. Là c'est un 33. Moi je vais mettre au pif, so I'm going to just eyeball it. I'm not going to measure it, in fact, because with the mousse anyway, it's hard to tell. So I'm just going to eyeball about 250 milliliters. So I've already started heating up my pan, so it's kind of hot already. About halfway there. Looking in the light. Let's see it just a little bit more. And I think we're good. Il faut à peu près 140 grammes de beurre. So it's about 10 tablespoons of butter, unsalted butter, donc beurre doux. Donc là, j'ai déjà mesuré, donc je vais mettre le beurre à fondre avec la bière. Voilà. There we go. For this recipe, I have already prepared the pan, so while that's heating up, the usual cake pan that I use, I've put this time a little bit of parchment paper, donc un petit peu de papier sulfurisé en dessous, tout est beurré. Ça aide juste quand on veut démouler, so it just helps when you want to take the cake out once it's cooled. So as that is going to be warming up, the butter is going to be melting. It's not going to take very long. We're going to go ahead and prepare some of the other ingredients. So this particular recipe, you need to use 3 different bowls. One that you're going to be re-putting your butter and your beer and butter in. Donc un bol pour la bière et le beurre une fois que c'est fondu. Un autre avec les œufs, la crème fraîche, la vanille. Et un troisième avec la farine, donc bicarbonate de soude et sel. So we're going to go ahead and mix up our dry ingredients while that's still melting. So we have 2 cups of flour, donc 2 cups de farine, donc 2 cups de farine, ça fait à peu près 250 grammes, donc 1 et donc à peu près 2. There we go, 2 cups of flour. 2 teaspoons of baking soda, not baking powder, donc 2 petites cuillères, donc cuillère à café de bicarbonate de soude. Et 2. And then we're just going to put a tiny bit of salt. It's a 1/4 teaspoon, so let's just say a couple of pinches of salt. I'm just going to put in a little bit of, there we go, 1/4 teaspoon. You don't need very much. If you use salted butter, si jamais vous n'avez pas de beurre doux, vous utilisez du beurre salé, il faut pas mettre de sel. Voilà. And we're going to mix this up. If you use salted butter, don't put in the salt. Just going to whisk that up. So that's all ready. We can set it aside. And it's still, my beer and my butter are still warming up here, but they're almost ready. There we go. Almost melted. I'm going to go ahead and take that off and set it aside so it can start. It's pretty hot. And while that is starting to cool a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and prepare the other ingredients, which are the eggs, sour cream, and so œuf, crème fraîche liquide, and vanilla. So I'm just going to put this next here, over here, a bit of space. Do the eggs first, so 2 eggs. And beat those up. crème fraîche, il faut, je crois que c'était 180 millilitres à peu près de crème fraîche, so it's about 3/4 of a cup of sour cream, crème fraîche épaisse. Donc la bière dans le gâteau au chocolat, en fait, ça va apporter un petit peu de levain, so it's going to give it a bit of an airy, and it brings a little bit of the dark beer. It goes really nicely with the chocolate. So we've got the sour cream and the eggs mixed together. I'm going to put in the vanilla, so we don't need the vanilla. So it's about 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I go ahead and usually put a little bit more than 1 teaspoon because I always put a little bit more of vanilla. So that's half one, so 1 teaspoon, un petit peu plus. Donc normalement une cuillère à café de vanille, sinon sucre vanillé si vous n'avez pas. Donc on a les œufs, la crème fraîche épaisse et la vanille. Set that aside as well. So we've got dry ingredients, these wet ingredients, I suppose, if you want to call it that, the second wet ingredients. And now what we're going to do is we're going to finish mixing up our beer and butter. So we have the beer and butter that's melted here. We're going to set it into a bowl. So normally you're supposed to wait until it becomes room temperature. Donc normalement, il faut attendre que ça devient température ambiante. Alors moi j'attends jamais si longtemps. So usually you're supposed to wait, but I figure with the ingredients that we add into it, it cools down already somewhat, and then it should be fine. Donc moi j'attends pas en général jusqu'au bout, mais donc il faut mettre 1 cup et demi de sucre, donc 1.5 cups of sugar. Qui fait, je sais jamais, pour le sucre, 150 grammes à peu près. So about 150 grams of sugar. So we're going to mix that up. It's going to help start to bring the temperature down a little bit. And then we have about 75 grams of cocoa powder, so unsweetened cocoa powder, which is about 3/4 of a cup of cocoa powder. I have nice dark cocoa powder that I like to use, so we're going to mix that in. Try to get out all the dry bits. If your cocoa powder is a bit old and it has lumps in it, you should probably go ahead and sift it first. Donc si jamais le cacao est un petit peu âgé, il y a des grumeaux qui sont formés, il faut peut-être un petit peu passer par une passoire avant, juste pour enlever les gros grumeaux. Mais là, c'est pas le cas. Donc, so c'est à peu près donc 75 grammes de cacao. Donc non sucré. Voilà. So now we have the cocoa and the sugar that we've mixed into the beer and the butter. So we've got that all nice and mixed together. If it's not too hot, so it's cooled down a bit, donc c'est pas température ambiante, but it has cooled down somewhat. We're going to go ahead and we're going to add in the egg and the sour cream. Donc on va rajouter l'œuf et la crème fraîche épaisse. Donc cette mixture, on va la rajouter avec le cacao. Voilà. Côté. Donc là c'est bien mélangé. Nice and mixed together. Just move a few things out of our way. There we go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add in the flour mixture. Now, you might do it little by little so that you don't end up with big clumps of flour. That's one thing I do find that this recipe, sometimes the flour doesn't mix in nicely. Donc, il faut juste faire attention d'avoir juste des petits, encore une fois, si la farine que vous avez a beaucoup de grumeaux, il faut peut-être la passer avant. So if your flour has a lot of lumps, you might want to go ahead and sift it first. So we're going to just mix it in gently, little by little, petit à petit. Ça va faire une pâte assez liquide quand même, so it's going to be a relatively liquid dough or batter here. There we go. We're getting there almost. Still got a bit of dry flour here. Mix it in. Not too much. Do not overmix. Il ne faut pas trop mélanger non plus, mais pour cette pâte-là, il faut quand même essayer d'avoir des petits grumeaux de farine pour pas que vous ayez des morceaux de farine secs. Donc, mais il ne faut pas aller trop, pour pas enlever tout l'air que la bière rajoute dans la recette. On va continuer un petit peu avec le petit bac là. With our spatula. There we go. I think we're getting there. I don't really see any big lumps anymore. Donc plus de gros grumeaux. Je vais goûter. Just gonna taste it. Make sure it tastes good. It tastes a little bit funny with the beer, but no, it's good. C'est bon. Donc là, on va le mettre dans le moule. On a préchauffé le four à 175, à peu près 180 degrés. Et on va le cuire 40-50 minutes, à peu près, ça dépend des fours, 50 ou 55. Donc à chaleur, donc pas à tournant. Donc ça va faire un gâteau assez aéré. Et en général, du coup, après, on met un petit peu de glaçage, le même glaçage que le gâteau à la carotte. So same as the carrot cake, icing that we put on the top. So you're going to bake it at 180 or 175 or approximately, or 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So 175 Celsius, 350 Fahrenheit for about, let's say 40 to 50, 55 minutes, depends on your oven. And I don't use the forced convection as usual. So there we go. I think that you're supposed to maybe, you can get the biggest bubbles by tapping it a couple times. So this recipe comes from Simply Recipes again. I'll put the recipe in the comments. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the oven and enjoy. So we're back. I have now the cooked cake here. It's still a little bit warm. Usually I wouldn't ice it right away, except my family is eager to eat it and so am I. Donc là, j'ai le gâteau qui est maintenant cuit. C'est encore un petit peu chaud. Normalement, je ne mettrai pas de glaçage. Je laisserai un petit peu refroidir encore. Mais comme nous avons hâte de manger, du coup, je vais juste vous montrer. J'avais conservé un petit peu de glaçage, donc cream cheese icing. I had kept a little bit of cream cheese icing. I had frozen it from the carrot cake that I made the other day. So I just thought I would put a little bit on. I don't like to put too much icing on this chocolate cake. I think that just a little bit goes a long way. Donc je mets pas beaucoup de glaçage. Donc comme il m'en restait un petit peu, j'avais pas besoin de le refaire. Mais vous pouvez aller voir dans la recette de carrot cake comment faire pour le glaçage. So if you want, you can make more. You can go and look at how I did it in the cream and carrot cake recipe. So, je vais mettre un petit peu. Là, comme j'ai le gâteau qui a craqué un petit peu, je vais mettre la forme alors. Sinon, vous pouvez mettre autour. Vous pouvez faire comme vous voulez. I'm not the best cake decorator, but since I have a little bit of cracked bits in my cake, I'm going to use those and I'm going to decorate with that. So I'm just going to add that a little bit along here. Donc, un petit peu. Voilà. Ça fait juste un petit peu de glaçage, just a little bit of icing. I don't like too much icing on this cake, just a little bit. Up. Voilà. Comme ça, if people like icing, they can take a piece of it more. If they don't like it so much, they can take with less. Voilà. C'est juste pour donner un petit peu de déco. A little bit more sugar. Yay! Un peu de sucre. Voilà. And just a little detail in the recipe video, I think I said that it was 150 grams of sugar, but actually it's 300 grams of sugar. So you can just make sure you double check. And voilà, merci beaucoup, have fun and enjoy the cake.